California headline news. Governor Gavin Newsom today declared an emergency for 5 Northern California counties, including Sonoma. Board of Supervisors Chair David Rabbit is grateful for the help from Sacramento.
We very much appreciate the governor recognizing the gravity of the situation and acting swiftly to ensure that we get the resources we need to help our community get back on its feet.
Although the Russian River is receding, it's doing so at a slower rate than had been expected. All evacuation orders remain in place. An overnight accident on I-80 in Emeryville has claimed the lives of 3 family members and left a 17-year-old with serious injuries. CHP says the vehicle they were in crashed into a big rig stopped on the side of the freeway. 3 clusters of whooping cough cases are being reported in Los Angeles County involving kids aged 11 to 18. Healthcare professionals say it's nasty.
When the bacteria infects us, it sticks to the little hairs in our trachea, and it's a very persistent bug.
Whooping cough can last for weeks. Steve Clausen, California News.
When do you want to spot that burglar? When he's casing your home or after he's in? Ask John, whose Blink camera alerted him of burglars trying to break in while he and his family were home. Or Shannon, whose Blink camera caught a thief stealing packages. Both times, Blink video clips were sent to police to help convict the crooks. And in a moment, I'll tell you how to get 20% off all Blink Outdoor XT camera systems. Blink motion-activated indoor and outdoor cameras are wire-free, set up in minutes, and run on 2 lithium batteries that last up to 2 years. And Blink's live feed option lets you monitor your home and check in on kids and pets from anywhere from your Blink smartphone app. No contracts, no subscriptions, totally affordable. And right now, Blink Outdoor XT camera systems are an impressive 20% off. But hurry, the sale ends March 16th at midnight Eastern.
Visit blinkprotect.com/offer. 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 Blink is an Amazon company and it works with Alexa.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. President Trump says his former personal attorney lied a lot to Congress. However,
he didn't lie about one thing. He said no collusion with the Russian hoax. And I said, I wonder why he didn't just lie about that too, like he did about everything else. I mean, he lied about so many different things. And I was actually impressed that he didn't say, well, I think there was collusion for this reason or that. He didn't say that.
Trump also ripped the committee for holding what he called a fake hearing while he was in Vietnam for a denuclearization summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy says Kim is no friend to the U.S. McCarthy made the remark to reporters at the Capitol today when pressed about President Trump's comments about Kim and American Otto Warmbier after their second summit. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is facing corruption charges just 6 weeks before elections. Israel's Attorney General announced today the Prime Minister will be indicted on bribery and breach of trust charges. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
American women are having heart attacks at a younger age. A new report by the American Heart Association says the rate of heart attacks for patients 35 to 54 has jumped in recent years, and mostly for women. The study says women are getting inferior care compared to men because they don't fit the profile of a patient in cardiac distress. Researchers at Yale University found that women were less likely to be recommended blood thinners and cholesterol meds to prevent a future heart attack because of the differences in symptoms between men and women. Oprah Winfrey's stake in Weight Watchers is losing weight. The media icon's holdings lost almost $48 million this week.
I think people are not calorie counting anymore. It's about eating what feels good for you and what makes your body feel good.
Shape Magazine executive editor Pam O'Brien saying the company's weight loss system isn't resonating with modern dieters. Health Update, Sarah Lee Kessler, NBC News Radio.
Hi everyone, it's Yanitza Munoz from the publications Maxim, FHM, and Sports Illustrated. So being a model, I have to work out a lot. It's tough staying in shape, especially keeping my abs. Until I discovered TC1 Gel. TC1 Gel is a thermogenic gel that you rub on your waist 15 minutes before exercising. Then simply put on the TC1 sweat belt and start your workout. You'll sweat like crazy and feel the burn. It focuses on boosting circulation, increasing perspiration, It activates body heat, reduces muscle fatigue, and burns off more calories. Get your TC1 gel now. Go to tc1gel.com and use the code RADIO30 for 30% off discount on this amazing product. tc1gel.com and get your abs back or just get in shape. Follow their Instagram at TC1gel.
Miss your favorite show? Download the podcast at kcaaradio.com.
From the NBC News Radio broadcasting studios of KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM, located in beautiful sunny California, where it's 70 degrees today. Thanks for tuning into the Water Zone. I'm Rob Starr, along with the mystical and wonderful Mr. Chris Davies. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing splendid today. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate you asking. Are you having fun playing with your laser there?
Yes, I was. Hey, I understand that you're going on a trip.
I am. Leaving this week and going to the Toro plant in Germany for a week.
And you know what the Germans like to do there?
Eat schnitzel and drink beer.
Drink beer. But, you know, you made I have to remind you, I know, you know, you made some resolutions. If it's about beer,
you probably don't have to remind me.
No, you made some resolutions about this, but I just want our audience to know you're not an alcoholic and you're not addicted to that.
Correct.
But you made a pledge about drinking beer.
I did.
And what is that?
I committed a 3-day beer fast. I am not going to drink beer on February 29th, 30th, and 31st.
Perfect. Our engineer just fell off his chair. Well, that's good to hear. So I don't think there's many beer sales that day anyway.
No, probably not.
So it's going to be cold?
Yeah, it's going to be in the mid to upper 30s and in the high teens. So, and snow on Thursday, the last day that we're there. So we'll see. Oh. I'm bringing my overcoat.
Good idea. And you will indulge in some nice beer.
Yes, indulge might be a lighter
after
word.
After work.
Yeah. Yes.
After work.
Off the clock.
Off the clock. Okay, that's a good thing to do. Well, we had a good show tonight.
Yeah, we did.
Actually, we got a sort of a surprise for the guests, which means they got to listen to us tonight. We had some scheduling issues with one of our guests, and then we rescheduled that person. But tonight we're going to give a special thing on your guide to a beautiful yard, and I figured who better can answer those questions than you and me.
I'll be there.
I think we can do that. But first, we have somebody who we think is awesome. And she is the most, well, it's not she, it's California's independent and smart, trusted source for water news and information. Trusted by everybody. And if you want to go to her website, you can. It's www.mavensnotebook.com. And here is the purveyor of that, Miss Chris Austin.
Hey, guys, how you doing?
All right. Fine.
Welcome,
hey,
Chris.
I'm in on your pledge there, Chris. I'm with you. I think I can do this. I think I can not drink alcohol on February 29th, 30th, and 31st.
Yeah, I sent out the request, and I've got lots of people said, I'm in. Count me in. Join me up.
Yeah. So
somebody got to do it. Somebody has to do it.
Yeah, I know. It's tough, isn't it?
Yes.
Hey, we had a big snow survey today.
I know.
How was that?
113 inches.
You must be.
Yeah.
You must be
53% above average.
That is
for
awesome.
This time of year. Yeah.
But I heard we're only 88-something% of the drought.
Well,
the deficit.
Drought doesn't go away with one big season, especially when it's been ongoing for many years. I mean, and they're finding this out in the Colorado River Basin. They're actually having, some good snowfall too, but they're not going to be out of drought either. It's just one nice year, and we should all celebrate that.
Yep, absolutely. But so what's in the calendar of water these days? What's going on all over the state?
Oh, well, there's a lot of attention. There's tons of precipitation. And the Russian River was, I believe, expected to crest 14 feet above flood stage. So there is major damage in Northern California. I mean, these atmospheric rivers are coming in, and they're just inundating. And this is a record for a Russian River to be that far above. I think they're estimating 2,000 buildings were flooded.
Yeah, that's right. That's what they said.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's tremendous.
And there's a national emergency there, not national, like a state. Sorry, there's too many emergencies going around the world. But there's did the governor call for a state emergency for those areas?
Yes, in several counties because of these storms. It's and we have burn areas, and so it's and as hard as we're not having a normal winter down here. I think this is one of the coldest Februaries, I think, in 24 years or on record or something here for Southern California. I mean, it has not gotten above 70 degrees all month, I don't think. And I do believe last month in February we were turning on our air conditioner because we were having 90 degrees. But not this year. It's quite a shift in the weather pattern.
Yeah, I think the spec is it's the coldest February on record.
Right, and also the rain. I think it's one of the rainiest seasons that we've had, is at least up until this point. Where it ends up when we're all done, we'll see. But quite a bit of precipitation. I mean, these storms just keep rolling in every 2 to 3 days. Here comes another one.
Yeah, we got a new Pacific storm rolling in tomorrow through the weekend.
Yep, through the weekend, and then another one after that, and they're getting even more of them up in Northern California.
Yeah,
so
right.
So while it's great for the water, the flooding is pretty bad. So that's not a good thing. But we'll appreciate the precipitation. So.
Yeah, all falling under the name of this atmospheric river, right? So a couple of people, off of the radio broadcast have asked me what that means, right, or emailed me, and so I've tried to come up with a succinct description of what the atmospheric river really is. Can you enlighten us on what that really means?
I think the easiest way to say it, we used to call these the Pineapple Express.
Right.
Because they tended to come from the tropics and they were warm storms. But we didn't really quite understand the phenomena. But there are, in the great big world of the atmosphere, which, I took physical geography in college, and I think the hardest thing to understand was the atmospheric stuff. Because you have cold columns and columns of cold air and columns of hot air, and they just don't mix. They do things, right? So we have these oscillations in the world, and as it sets up in the atmosphere, it sets up these streams where it just absolutely funnels moisture from the tropics straight at California. I'm not exactly sure why, because I tell you, the atmospheric stuff is pretty hard to understand. But it's the stream of moisture that comes from the tropics, and it just funnels. If you look at it when they have the satellite images of water vapor, it's just this line that shoots from the tropics, Hawaii and farther south, straight into California, and it hits at different places depending on how these oscillations in the jet stream work. But the water vapor in these atmospheric rivers is actually sometimes greater than some of the largest rivers that we have in the country. And possibly, I don't know how it compares to the Amazon, but I know they've compared it to like the Mississippi.
Right.
And it's like, here comes the Mississippi River getting dumped on you, and it tends to like to hit the Russian River basin the most. It must be just the phenomena of how these oscillations in the jet stream line up. So the Russian River has been sort of ground zero, and they've done a lot of studying of that area. And I think that's where they discovered this concept of the atmospheric river. But what's really interesting is that, you know, we have dams all over the state of California, and dams tend to have one or two functions, main functions, and that is, number one is water storage, and number two is flood control. And those two missions of the dam, shall we say, are kind of juxtaposed. I mean, it's kind of hard to do both, because in the wintertime when these storms are rolling in, they have to make sure these reservoirs are pulled down far enough so that when the inflow comes into the reservoir, it doesn't overtop it and, you know, take the dam out. So the Army Corps of Engineers, who is who's in charge of flood control, sets these rule curves for the reservoirs. And, you know, at this point in the year, you need to have this much out of your reservoir. And it's based on all these factors. But these were all drawn up in the 50s. And, you know, we're having a much different hydrology these days. So they're running an experiment in the Russian River basin. They got Army Corps to sign on to this, where they are adjusting the rule curves so that it's called forecast-informed reservoir operations. So they're looking ahead they're actually taking into consideration what's on the horizon. So if there's a storm coming in, but it's only one storm and there's not a chain of them, then maybe they don't have to let so much water out. And I believe that they were able to save, I'm thinking it was pretty significant, like 1 million acre-feet like last year, by applying these rule curves. But this is really very trend-setting for, you know, an agency that is dealing with, you know, 60, 70-year-old rule curves, and they are now updating it to this 21st century technology. But this is really the wave of the future. They're also working on a similar project at Prado Dam down there in, you know, Southern California.
Right.
You know, again, can we keep more water? Can we look ahead now that we're getting better at forecasting, and can we say we don't need to release so much water from the reservoir? So this is actually really progressive, and it's kind of exciting. I mean, it's a way where we might be able to do a better job of managing our reservoirs, getting that water in there, but also maintaining that sort of dual and opposing goal of flood control.
Right.
You know.
Well, you know, now that we have a new governor, Governor Newsom, you know, he took a look at the water fix, and he did say he did say he's open to building one tunnel to divert the Sacramento River water under the Delta, you know, to pump to carry Northern California water to Central Valley Farms. But wasn't there always talk about building more reservoirs, dams, and we didn't do that?
Well, you know, we had the Water Storage Investment Program. Voters voted for that, and we are going to get some expanded reservoirs and some new reservoirs out of it. The real problem is it's south of Delta reservoir storage, and there's just not a lot of that. You know, and we have this problem with San Luis Reservoir in that it has some seismic issues that needs to be retrofitted. So, you know, some people squawk when it gets up to being full, which it kind of is now because, you know, there could be an issue. Although it's not the same. A dam failure at San Luis would flood out, some people in the Central Valley and some farms. It's not like in a major urban area, but still, nobody wants to have a dam failure anywhere. And there's just, you know, we have some storage projects in Southern California that are groundwater storage projects that are going in, and everyone agrees that groundwater storage is really something we need to pay a lot of attention to. The problem is when it's raining like it has been now, you know, there's already a lot of water floating around, and there isn't a lot of space to go into recharge basins because flood basins are full too. I mean, there's so much water being dumped on the state. There's only so much that we can do, at least with the infrastructure that we have. So, it's getting ready for this new hydrology. It's a challenge.
True.
But yes, Governor Newsom has said he prefers a one-tunnel option. However, he has not been very specific on what that one-tunnel option is. How many CFS is it to carry? The original project was, 2 tunnels at. They had 3 intakes at 3,000 CFS, so that's 9,000 CFS split between 2 tunnels. That's 4,500 CFS. So he says he wants one tunnel. Does he mean 4,500 CFS, or maybe he means one tunnel at 9,000 CFS? Because that was, that could be considered too.
Sure.
So
not
we
a
really
big tunnel.
Don't know.
That would be a big tunnel, but yeah, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah, so we don't really know what he means, and he has not given a lot of guidance on that. DWR has not has analyzed a one tunnel option, but probably not what he might be thinking. And these were options that were put up, when the California Water Fix was the Bay Delta Conservation Plan, like 8-9 years ago, right? Or 7-8, I guess, more like 7 years. So, it's like, what is this going to mean to to the project? I don't know. It's hard to see how they're not going to have to go back and redo another environmental document if it's substantially different than what has been analyzed before, which is likely to be. But another environmental impact report is that's 2 years off. That's a lot of work. So.
Well, you would have thought him being Governor Newsom would have been in lockstep with Governor Brown, and even if he wasn't, that people would have known about his decisions or thought or asked him, so they could because he was sort of the heir apparent in California. I mean, it was kind of said he's the one that's good, he didn't have the real challengers, and he's going to be the governor anyway, and now it's going to just take up more time and more time and more time. And
well, I don't know why he didn't have, water top of mind, and why he didn't come into office, all big on water, because what else is there, really, right? If there's not water,
he always
transportation, healthcare.
No, he always
but water. Come on, guys.
He always claimed on his website that he was I'm not saying the exact words, but the hero for water.
Yes, you're right.
And he made a big deal about that.
Catch line for him.
Yeah, and we never, we could never get him to come on our show or anybody from his office. And okay, that's fine. We're nothing in compared to where he wants to go on the bigger deals and bigger shows.
But but he missed out, man.
Thank you, Chris.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think
his loss.
I think so, and so do our listeners, because they really they wanted to have
our
that.
10 listeners wanted to know.
Nah, we. Now Nick's falling off the chair again.
No, well, he's admitting that there's only 9 because Bob's out sick this week.
Oh, okay.
Oh, darn.
Now, does that count you and me and Chris? So that brings it down to 6. No. But it just seems like this whole thing's going to drag on and on and on, and we'll probably go through 2 to 3 to 4 years before something even happens again.
Well, it's hard to know what's going to happen. They had this big hearing at the State Water Board, and then they've had all these changes and all these things that have come out that are going to affect the operation of the project. And then on top of it, Governor Newsom did not reappoint Felicia Marcus, and she's one of the 3 hearing officers.
Yes.
So what does that mean when one of your hearing officers is no longer there? Does the new guy have to go and watch 100 hours of California Water Fix hearings?
I was going to nominate you.
Oh, no. I can't imagine anything worse than having to binge watch the California Water Fix hearings at the State Water Board. Oh, yay. Where do I sign up for that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I also heard that there's a bill by John Garamendi.
The San Joaquin Delta bill.
Yeah. There's been a desire in the state agencies and somewhat in the Delta community to have the Delta declared as a national heritage area, which makes it it's kind of like a national park, but not quite so restrictive. But it just allows for, putting up interpretive signs, developing routes that people might travel through, encouraging tourism, and kind of bringing out the history of the place. It requires, legislation at the federal level. So that bill has passed Congress, and Senator Feinstein has introduced a similar bill in the Senate. So we might actually get this accomplished this year. So we will see.
That would be nice.
I think it would be nice for the Delta,
yep.
And it would kind of, elevate it in the national presence as being an area of historical importance.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of nifty historical things there in the Delta, like the city of Locke, which is it's a settlement, a Chinese settlement that was there in the Delta, because the Delta levees after the Chinese built the railroad,
right.
They went to the Delta and built levees.
Yep.
And they had a city, and that city is still there, Locke, and it's sort of preserved, and people still live there too. But there's a lot of these really neat old buildings, wood frame buildings in there. So there's a lot of neat historical resources in the Delta. So I think it would be nice to see it get that kind of recognition.
I'd like to see somebody take the place of Ewell Hauser to go cover those things and show people what's in California, because a lot of people don't know what we got here.
Boy.
Oh, we have so many things.
Yep. Show them where Chris lives and where I live. No.
Keep that thought in mind. It might be the Robin Chris video log.
Yeah, Robin Chris squared. You have to include Chris
Absolutely.
Austin. Without her, we don't know much about the news. No, she.
Right.
Chris, I always joke with you about that, but seriously, anybody who doesn't know about your work is sadly missing out on things, because you're like the real truth in what's happening with the water agencies and the water industry. We had a meeting this morning for the San Bernardino Water Conference for 2019, and we're talking about who should they have to come in and speak and do this and what topics and things. We're just in the planning stage to get that done. And there's so much stuff that people just don't know. And there's also a lot of success stories that people don't know about either. So I think that's important.
Yeah, and actually I think, San Bernardino Valley Water District, Municipal Water District, it's a mouthful. They've been at the forefront of a lot of things. It's an adjudicated basin down there, and an adjudicated basin basically means that a judge has gone in and kind of determined how much everyone can pump from the groundwater basin. But a judge is not a hydrologist, and a lot of these adjudications happen, 30, 40, 50 years ago, and they're finding that these stipulations that are in these adjudications don't always meet. I mean, the groundwater is still dropping. So the San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District got together with others, and they've created the Groundwater Council, where they're going to work to address this, rather than suing each other, which I guess was the route they were going. They've actually decided to come together and form a groundwater council and figure out what to do, because they all recognize that they need to keep the resources. You need to have a healthy groundwater basin.
Absolutely.
All those population that lives above it is counting on that. So it's great to see them out there doing that. And also, there was the completion of the Citrus Reservoir. Was that earlier this year? I think it was in early 2018. I kind of remember it raining when I was out there for the dedication.
Yeah, that was last year.
Yeah, that's the completion of the east branch of the State Water Project that brings in water that they're working to then move into their groundwater basin.
That was a real sweet deal.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's great that they really worked to complete that project, to the benefit of everyone that lives out in that area. So,
that's true.
Yeah.
We just got a call that came into me and says I should keep my day job, so I
Yeah.
won't be a comedian.
All important stuff, Chris, because, we talked about all the rain and the catchment basins are full and reservoirs are getting full, although I did look at the chart for the reservoir fill to pool rates on the Maven's Notebook website, and not all of them are full, right? I was a little surprised to see some of them back even down in the 60 to 70% pool rate.
Okay, but we're also, again, a lot of those reservoirs have flood control responsibility, so they cannot be full, especially with this lineup of storms coming. And most of these reservoirs still are operating on those old rule curves. And not, this, like I said, what's going on in the Russian River and what they're soon going to be doing at Prado Dam, that's new and edgy and innovative. But, yeah, that's kind of the hard part when the Millerton Lake, Bryant Dam, it's a 500,000 acre-foot reservoir, but the watershed above it is capable of just, dumping amazing amounts. The dam is actually too small for the watershed that's above it. So they really have to take their reservoir down, way down, when they have all the snow up above. So a lot of reservoirs, that's the hard part. You have to be low for flood operations so you can catch it when it comes down.
Right.
And that's why estimating how much water is in the snowpack in the mountains is so important. Because they're trying to guess, best they can, how much is that going to come down. And the better that they can estimate that, the better they can operate the reservoir. So when the rainy season ends, the reservoir is full.
Right.
Yeah,
but
my point was...
tricky.
Yeah, the point was, they're not at full pool. We've got the atmospheric river that we spend quite a bit of time talking about. We've also got warming weather coming up, and it doesn't look like there's any end to the rain that's coming, at least for the next few weeks. There's the long range forecast is for continued rain. So, the state's got to prepare for the double whammy of warming weather, melting snows, and rain, because it really, it's really a doubling effect on the runoff, right? And
yeah. Well, I mean, what would really be disastrous if we get a really warm storm come in and go rain on all that big ass snowpack in the Sierra? Pardon me.
Lots of water.
Yeah, and then it all comes down. I mean, that has happened before, and it's caused massive flooding. Took out a part of the 395 in the Walker River Basin. Don't know if you're familiar with that road, but that there's a little stretch where the 395 goes next to the Walker River into a canyon. And when you drive through that today, if you go through there, look up at the top, and you will see the water line where those floods came through. I mean, they just took everything out in that canyon. The water line was amazing. I mean, it's so far up there. It's hard to contemplate that little river could have been up that far, but look at the water line next time you all drive through there.
I'm going to look for that because I love to fish the Eastern Sierras, and I've spent as much time on 395 as you have eating hot dinners. So,
that's a beautiful, beautiful part of California.
It is indeed.
Boy, wouldn't you love to live there? But you can't because there's no houses.
Yeah,
really, really
live
hard.
where?
Well, you talked about weather changes and things like that. I kind of offline here, but do you know what was the highest reported temperature ever in Antarctica?
No, what was it?
A little over 64 degrees.
Wow.
Get on your shorts.
Yeah, I just found out about that today. I thought that was interesting. They gave 4 choices. One was 38, one was 45, one was 13, and the last one was 64 point something.
Wow, you can cut down on SPF 150 and go down to SPF 15, that kind of weather.
Well, they had some ice shelves break off, down in there, just, huge. One, they watched it, rip off. I think they even had to move some of their research stations, so...
Right, we've got that as a topic for the show. So if you know anyone who's well schooled in that issue, we'd love to hear from them.
Absolutely. Hey, we're going to take a little break. Chris, if you want to stay on with us, you're certainly welcome to do that. We can talk a little bit more about what's happening and chime in with Chris and I when we talk about how to make your yard look good. And it's up to you. So just
I'd like to, but I kind of got to go make dinner.
Oh, well, it's too far for me to drive over right now. So
I know the family likes to eat. I don't get it. I don't know why.
All right, enjoy the rest of your evening, Chris.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Too.
And don't forget, go to mavensnotebook.com. Please be a subscriber to her. She appreciates it, and you will be as smart as her and probably smarter than us. So we'll be back in a minute. We're just going to take a break and stick around for the second half of the Water Zone.
Stay tuned, everyone.
If you knew there was a pipe cement that works better than the one you're currently using, is better for you and the environment, and costs the same or less, would you buy it? Oh, no-brainer, right? Weldon, the trusted leader in solvent cements for over 60 years, is pleased to introduce a new line of solvent cements that does all that. Introducing the Eco Series line of solvent cements for PVC piping systems. Not only does it work great and set fast, it also has 30% lower solvent emissions and less smelly fumes, a better workplace environment when you're installing pipes. But don't just take our word for it. EcoSeries products are the only solvent cements that are Green Seal certified for environmental innovation for effective performance, improved working conditions, and for use with potable water. Now available in a medium-bodied fast-setting blue formula 905 Eco and a regular-bodied fast-setting clear formula 900 Eco. Pick up a can today from your local distributor and see, smell, and feel the difference, just like Joe Sweat, president of Sunrise Irrigation, did. He said, after using Weldon's 905 Eco, we immediately noticed the application was smooth and there was noticeably less odor than other blue solvent cements on the market. The guys love it. To learn more about Eco solvent cements from Weldon, visit the website at www.weldon.com or call the technical service hotline at 877-477-8327. That's 877-477-8327.
Time to take a water break and talk some water. Irrigation. Such a refreshing topic. As more and more markets face water restrictions, your customers may be hungry, or should I say thirsty, for water-saving products. For new installations, add options like drip irrigation, controllers that respond to weather data, pressure regulating heads, or heads with check valves. They all provide easy ways to differentiate your bids and win more jobs. Or for an extra stream of revenue, offer existing customers upgrades like high-efficiency nozzles, rotary nozzles, or Wi-Fi based controllers. Because when you help your customers save water, you make a world of difference for the earth and your bottom line at the same time. We'll drink to that.
Hey, welcome back to the second half of the Water Zone with Rob and Chris, and we're enjoying it very well. And thanks for Chris Austin for joining us. Hey, for anybody out there who wants to get some smart information, I was going to tell you to call us, but I said smart information, though. Please call into 888. Chris just got it.
I just got that.
That was like me guessing the 28th, 29th, 30th. So anyway, call-in numbers is 888-909-1050 or 909-792-5222. And you can download our podcasts on KCAAradio.com. You can go to Apple iTunes. You can go to iHeartRadio. You can see video broadcasts on YouTube, Ustream, Tiki Live, and KCAAradio.com. And our website, if you want to, or email address actually, is waterzone@toro.com. If you want to send us any messages, we take all nice ones. The bad ones, I guess we have to read those as well. But we haven't got a bad one yet, so that's good.
We have a special receptacle for the
it gets screened. We have screeners, right?
It's round. And
So a question for I mentioned a couple shows ago, and we're gonna get it all finalized up here. We're working with Municipal Water District of Orange County. We're going to do what's called an extreme water makeover for somebody, and they're going to put it out. Now we're going to do it in different counties, and we're starting off in Orange County. And what the deal is that homeowners can send a picture of their front yard and tell us in 300 words or less why they need their irrigation system needs to be more water conservationist. You know, how can it use water more efficiently? If you're the winner, you get a complete makeover of your irrigation equipment by the Toro company. We appreciate that. And we also have Howard's Appliances, which is the largest appliance chain in California. And they're going to be donating a dishwasher, washer and dryer, fixtures, and a whole bunch of other things to the winner, so help inside the house as well. And we also have Kellogg's Garden Products. They're going to be supplying garden soil amendments and things for the homeowner. So that's just some of the things that we're doing. But we'll start announcing that pretty shortly in the next couple of weeks. We're just finalizing all the little dots and crossing the T's and having the lawyers check it all out. And that should be a good thing. So it'll be called Extreme Water Makeover. So stay tuned to that. So anyway, question that people ask is like, what's the most valuable asset in your landscape?
A lot of people ask that question, right? So, I mean, it's really the water you put on your landscape. I mean, that's over time, that's what costs the most.
Some people say
money.
it's a pizza oven.
Yeah,
but that's not true.
That may be.
I'll give you some.
Maybe in your world.
In my neighborhood, right? I'll tell you. I'll give the people some hints. It takes years to mature and can be difficult and expensive to replace. It captures stormwater runoff and protects water quality. It filters the air of pollution while producing oxygen. It increases property values. It can improve social interaction by lowering crime rates, creating privacy, providing a sound barrier, and adding beauty. And it can cool the surface 20 to 45 degrees.
I think people are catching on.
Do you know what that is?
A tree.
A tree, that's right. See, Chris knows everything. He's the good man.
I didn't know you were setting me up for that. I already knew the answer.
Well, somebody had to call in. We should have gave a gift card away for somebody to do that.
Yep.
But we got some myths about watering and things, and what people know and don't know about their landscapes. And I think it's important for people to know what's happening with all of those. So plant water use. So how much water does your plants really need?
I think the way I would just want to add something on the trees thing, right? Because we recently saw an aerial picture of the Inland Empire here and Orange County and LA County, which is the area we live here in Southern California. Right. And when you look at the amount of trees per acre that are maintained privately by homeowners and commercially by businesses, and then by the government, by municipal, local governments, this Southern California really is an urban jungle, right? I mean, they say that, but it's huge, and the amount of transpiration and oxygen, CO2 exchange, all those things that go along with healthy trees, Southern California is a virtual urban jungle.
Oh, absolutely. There's factors that affect the plant water use, and you talked about the transpiration. People call it ET, evapotranspiration.
Right.
And there's 4 sources to measure that. One is precipitation, one is the transpiration, one's the amount of humidity, and solar is the biggest portion of that.
Yep, right, exactly. So where that tree is positioned, south side, north side of the house, on a slope, on a flat area, all those things are contributors to the value and the value of that tree and where it sits. So there's really a couple of very important things. Hey, got a call there, buddy? Here he goes. All right, so it looks like we got a caller coming in.
We're on the air right now. Can we call you back? Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Not that caller.
We thought that was...
Yeah, you fooled me for a while there.
We thought that was a big caller, but I guess people don't... we're on Pacific time. We have to. We have to let people know that. But water use is important. Also, knowing what kind of soil you have is extremely important.
Yeah, I was just going to play a note here, right? So about the transpiration, we just talked about that, right? So, right. And everybody's asking me, well, it's something you don't see, and I'm going, well, wait a minute now. I'll tell you a way that you can see
it. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
So if you just take a baggie, right, that you can get, that's out of your kitchen, right? Put it over some leaves at the end of one of the branches, kind of early in the day. Tie it closed and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's a sealed-off environment in there. Wait a few hours.
And you'll see the bag got some moisture in it.
Will be wet.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, people don't realize that. And they tell you what time to water and whatnot and how much you should water and everything else. It's really important that people understand that all this ET factors, the weather has a deep effect of how you water. Because if you constantly water on your timer, for example, and you set it for, let's just say 5 minutes every day or 5 minutes every other day or 10 minutes, whatever that is, and you never change that schedule, you're going to overwater.
Absolutely.
Completely overwater.
Yep.
Because the cycle is up and down. The ET changes every single day. And if you don't follow the curve that shows of what the relation of the ET values are, you're gonna overwater 30 to 60%.
Yep, and it's different in different places, right? Depending on where you live. If you live in an arid region, Palm Springs out here, for example, very different than what you would experience if you lived in, say, San Francisco.
Right. Now, they tell you should water in the morning, early morning, but that's not always true. If you're in a place like Victorville, Apple Valley, where it's really cold in the morning, in the 20s or below 32 degrees, I don't think you want to be watering your lawn or any of your plants. Yeah. So you need to adjust that schedule so you can be in a little bit more warmer temperature, maybe around 10, 11 o'clock. But it also depends on the city's water regulations, because sometimes they tell you when you can water and when you can't. Some places don't want you to water past 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, right. So there, you know what? We should also mention, Rob, that there's a couple of other factors other than the obvious ones that affect evapotranspiration, right? We're talking about precip and transpiration of the sun and evaporation from the ground and from the leaves. Right. But we did mention solar radiation a bit, but the temperature. Yes. That's ambient temperature that day is also a big effect on it, and so is the wind.
I was just going to say the wind, yes.
And the wind speed and the wind direction.
Right, because that can dry it out so fast.
Right, believe it or not.
And the soil.
Right. And we did talk about the humidity, relative humidity, or from a plant sense, that's expressed as what's called the vapor pressure.
How many people know what kind of soil they have?
Not many.
They call it dirt.
Yeah, dirt.
And there's clay, there's loam, there's
sandy loam.
Yeah, there's a whole mixture, and there's ways to find out. There's simple tests that you can do to do that. If you collect the dirt and put it in a bottle, and you can see what it does. But there's also sources you can bring it to your water agencies will help you tell that out. And it's good to know, because if you got sandy soil, guess where that water is going to go? It's going to get sucked right up to the bottom.
Yeah, you stand out in very sandy soil, loose sandy soil with an open-ended hose, and you will not get any puddling, right? It'll just sink right in and go right through. Try to do that in a clay soil, right? You can't do it, right? You'll get puddling immediately.
And people have to realize when they water and they see that puddling, that's called the saturation rate of the property of the soil. And the one thing you don't want to do is when it starts to saturate and create those pools, you're going to start to have runoff.
Right.
And right now there's going to be lots of people getting fined in the different cities for water going down the street, and especially people who use chemicals on their lawn. That creates pollution.
That's right.
It goes into the thing. So those are things you have to worry about. Also, checking your total irrigation system is important to do that. And Chris, I know, obviously, he's my hydraulics expert, sitting right next to me. That's why he's going to Germany, because they want his expertise over there. But all kidding aside, the anatomy of an irrigation system is important. And your controller is just as important as your car. For example, if you had a car, say you had a Maserati or whatever car you like, a real fancy car, and it has no wheels or tires, has a great engine, has 475 horsepower, but what's that car's going to do? Nothing. It's going to sit there.
It'll sit there, but a Maserati sitting there is just fine with me.
Just fine with you. You can have your beer in the car.
Yeah, sure.
You can get arrested for sitting in the car drinking.
You can, absolutely.
Even if
it doesn't have to be moving. You just have to be inside.
And even if you fall asleep. I saw that on television.
Yep.
So they have that guy, 1-800-NO-CUFFS.
Yep.
So, but anyway.
All right, so you were getting at irrigation, anatomy of an irrigation system, right? 3 main components, right?
Right.
And that's the controller, which
That's
controls the irrigation system.
Right.
The valve,
Valves.
which regulates the flow.
And what type of emitters you're going to use,
right.
whether it's a rotor, a spray head, or drip, or
right.
whatever.
Broadcast, drip, whatever kind of irrigation you've got, right? So, and that's all important, and it depends on the crop that you're
pressure.
watering. And right.
Pressure. So what's Chris? What would you recommend for spray nozzles, typically on pressures? And how would people find out what their pressure is?
Right. So very first question there is how do you find out what your pressure is? Well, you can get a simple pressure gauge. They're available just about anywhere you go. Hardware stores, the big box stores, and things like that. Usually get one that is 0 to 200 psi, and then most of them will come with a hose threaded adapter.
Right.
So what you can do is just thread it right onto your hose bib, right? Turn on your water, and what you'll get is a static water pressure reading. So there are 2 different kinds of water pressure readings. One is static, where there's no movement in the water, and the other is dynamic, where you measure the water as it's flowing.
Right. And what's important to do if you're going to measure it as it's flowing, you take a valve and you decide which one you want to test this line on, which has, let's just say, a bunch of spray heads. Say you have 10 or 20 spray heads or rotors or whatever you have online. You put the pressure gauge on the first spray body that you have that's closest to the valve, and you take a reading, and then you go to the last one on that line and measure it there. You should be within plus or minus 10%, so you know you have good distribution going all the way through that. If you have something more than that, you have too many spray heads on the line.
Right. So basically said, if you have 40 psi at the source where the valve is, right, and you have 10 heads on that line, the difference in pressure should be 4 pounds, 10% of 40, between the first head and the last head, no more than that.
Correct.
And there's things you can do on a sprinkler line to manage the pressure equally throughout that pressure line, and that is
different types of nozzles.
Different types of nozzles. There's also spray heads that are available with pressure compensating devices inside the discs inside the nozzles, or
on the valve.
Yep, or you can regulate the valve with a pressure regulated valve.
Yeah, there are some metered valves that you can buy that you can dial in the adjustment for that. Now that's all well and good, but there's more to it than just that. It's how do you space them? How do you space the emitting device? How far apart are they? What is the precipitation rate, which means how much water is put out in a certain amount of time, and you have to have the coverage for that, and making sure you have what we call head-to-head coverage. So there's an overlap to all of that.
Let's dispel that first myth right there, right? Because I've talked to loads of people that have that I've gone out and done an audit on their sprinkler system, and they say, well, the farthest drop that comes out of this sprinkler reaches the farthest drop that's coming out of the other sprinkler next to it. Well, that's not head-to-head coverage, right? That's
edge to edge,
edge-to-edge coverage. You need the farthest drop coming out of a sprinkler to actually hit the next sprinkler over, not hit its farthest drop, but hit the sprinkler where the drops are coming from.
Otherwise, you got a nice big round dry spot.
Right.
And you don't want to see that. Another fallacy, I see a lot of people, they put both spray heads and rotors on the same valve line. Now that's kind of weird for people. For us in our industry, because we know that if you take a spray body versus a rotor, the spray body puts out usually a half the amount of water that a rotor puts out.
Right.
And so if you have both on the same valve, one area is going to be very wet, the other one's going to be very dry.
Right. The amount of water that is sprayed out on a targeted irrigation area is called the precipitation rate, and it's measured in inches or tenths of inches per hour. So you want to make sure that the sprinklers that you buy and the nozzles that you put on those sprinklers have a precip rate that matches the other heads on the zone. Right. Otherwise, you'll have areas that are drier than others and areas that are wetter than others. And what happens is you end up wasting water because you're going to water that zone to keep the driest area green. Right, and then all the other water that's going on other areas that are already getting enough water, that's just wasted water. And guess what? You're paying for that on your water bill.
Yep, and with everybody going to water agencies, excuse me, going to tiered rates, you can pay a pretty hefty penny for water, and if you don't watch it. And most people won't know what they use until they get their bill, and then they'll be shocked.
Whiskey is for drinking, water is for paying for.
Well, that's true. Another thing people like to talk, the big talk when the drought started is, everybody's getting rid of spray bodies and rotors are going to drip. And that's a big deal. We'll come back to valves afterwards, but we have a book here, and we're just going through and making sure we're covering everything for everybody. On the drip, there's a big myth that if you put these drip lines in, and which size do you use? Do you use a half inch? Do you use a quarter inch? How far can you actually have the length of it go without having any problems? The second thing, there's how many gallons per minute. You can get a half a gallon per minute or a gallon per minute or so forth. But I notice a lot of people that I know, they say, gee, I'm not getting enough water, so they turn it up. They turn their controller to leave it on longer. But then I see a lot of people going and buy, there's two kinds of drip tubing. There's kinds that are solid, where you can put the emitters and punch them in to where the point of use is going to be.
Yep.
And that's a good thing to do, because then you're not watering things in between them that is just dirt.
Yep.
So some people use that. Some people use the drip product that has the built-in emitters. And there's two types. There's flat and there's cylindrical emitters. And there's purposes and positives and negatives for both. But one of the things I see a lot, if the people have the ones with the built-in emitters, they come in usually 12-inch, 18, and 24-inch spacing. If you're a big contractor, you can get custom ones to be any length separation.
That's right.
But I find people who have the preset ones, they say, oh, I'm not getting enough coverage, so now I'm going to add some more. I'm going to go buy some push-in emitters and stick them all in the tubing.
Yeah.
Well, that just screws up your flow rates
Yep.
and everything, and it really takes your whole system out of whack.
Sure.
And that's something you shouldn't do.
And do you remember in the old days when you could buy the soaker hose, or also known as porous pipe?
Yes.
That's.
They still sell it.
Yeah, they do. Right, they do.
And you can get it both in the soaker hose with the soft material, or you can actually get hard PVC with little drill holes, laser drill holes in it to do that. But you're wasting water when it comes to that. Now, sometimes people say or ask, hey, can we use drip under grass? Well, you can, but you really need to do that as you're planting it and putting it in, because
hard to retrofit.
Yeah, and plus you need to keep it watered all the time at the beginning in the growing, and so most people then irrigate from above until it establishes that, and then they switch over to the drip. But the drip does work very nicely. There's been some tests at trying to think, the University of New Mexico, they have done lots of studies on using drip irrigation for under turf, and it has been very, very successful, but you have to know how to do it. Do you do lateral lines, or do you do grid?
Yeah, hatch. The hatch work, right?
Yeah.
And it depends on what type of grass it is, what the species of the grass is, and how long the roots are.
Right.
It also depends on the aggressiveness of the grass, whether it's straight up and down or a rhizome spreading grass. So there's lots of things to think about. In the beginning, there was a lot of trouble with that because of root intrusion, right? The grass roots grass roots are going to seek water out, so they're going to go right in the pipe, and the roots end up plugging the pipe.
Right. And there's several different companies that manufacture product that has root protection, so-called. Some have Teflon or root guard. Some have copper. It all depends, and everybody has a story of which is better and such. And we're not here to bag on any company and say who's the best or who isn't. We try to stay as neutral as we can.
Yeah.
But let's go to valves for a second, because we kind of touched over that really quick. So somebody has a backyard and they want to add some more things to the yard and maybe add a drip line, but they don't have any way to do it except to hook into your hose bib, and they want a little valve or things to turn on. They need to have a special solenoid to be used, because most of the solenoids that are used in regular irrigation system runs on 24 volts AC. When you go to a DC, a battery operated controller, you need to have a DC solenoid, and you can't mix those together.
That's right.
They won't work.
Right.
And you were telling me a story about somebody who puts valves in at how many feet below?
Yeah, 20 meters, which is about 60 feet.
Yeah.
Right, and so yeah,
we get lots of crazy questions on at work and on the air about what we can do, and I mean some of these things are just dramatically silly.
Yes, the answer was no, by the way.
You told them no. That's good. Well, if you told them yes, we can sell them more product.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff we can continue to talk about because controllers are coming a long way, and
absolutely, and we want to talk more about the valves and things. So maybe we'll save that for another thing. We just want to touch base. If you have questions, please send it to the Water Zone at Toro.com. And we would appreciate that. So thanks for tuning in today. We will talk to you next week. We have a great water agency from back east who will be on the phone and calling in and tell you about their successes and what they've done for water efficiency. So everybody, you have a great week. And remember what we always tell you every single week.
Always.
No, you say you're here for the beer, but we're going to say think blue. Good night, everybody.
Have a good night.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and